Okay, this one's just for me.
Sweet.
So it looks like Sega is rebooting Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. And
you love those games.
man, oh man. Number one, the Dreamcast is probably, man, it's hard to say this, but because of its short lifestyle, I think for the per capita, the games that they had come out in such a short window, the Dreamcast might be my favorite console ever. Really, it's the Super Nintendo, but the Dreamcast is right up there fighting for my favorite game. I mean, my favorite console ever. I thought the Dreamcast had just banger games on there. I think it was way ahead of its time. And I think, unfortunately, with that sometimes comes it not working and, being discontinued after only like a year and a half, I think it was, with the Dreamcast. Anyway, Crazy Taxi was an amazingly fun arcadey pick 'em up and drop 'em off game on the Dreamcast. And then Jet Set Radio, or Jet Grind Radio, whenever you played the game, but was this weird like rollerblading, like you would rollerblade around town and like spray graffiti on buildings and go up against these other rollerblade groups and all this stuff. And they're talking about bringing them back, which I don't know why. So maybe somebody can help me out with this, because I don't know what this means. It says Sega Sammy Holdings Inc., which is Sega, is developing big budget reboots. This is coming from Bloomberg, by the way, of its Dreamcast games Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, as it taps its back catalog in search of global hits like Epic Games Inc.'s Fortnite, according to people familiar with its plans. So I just don't know why they would put Fortnite, and I don't know why that would be, unless they're just saying, hey, Fortnite was a big hit, so Sega's trying to tap its back catalog to try to get a global hit like Epic Games Fortnite. And maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it means kind of like, because Fortnite now isn't how it started as far as like the main gameplay, and so maybe they're trying to, they're saying they want to take one of their titles and kind of change how it was played to make it big like Fortnite did.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah,
I think it means Jet Set Radio is going to be a battle royale.
It
Could
better
be.
not be.
And then sounds like that's the right direction to go.
Kind of way. Yes. But man, oh man, again, as we talked about a couple weeks ago about, classics being brought back up and not even knowing, that a classic will hit you in a certain way when they get, hey, we're redoing this. You're like, ooh, yeah. Man, oh man, I loved Jet Set Radio. I there was a time in my life where I listened to that soundtrack all the time. I love the soundtrack for Jet Set Radio. It is so much fun.
Wow.
Crazy Taxi was a game that I've bought on multiple consoles now that it came out on a bunch of different things. And so did anybody play either of these games?
No.
I don't think I Crazy Taxi I've heard the most. I want to say I have, but I have no memory of what the gameplay is, and I'm almost certain I never played Jet Set Radio. Were they only Sega things? Did they ever come to anything else down the road?
Yeah, Crazy Taxi ended up coming to a bunch of stuff. Okay. And I think Jet Set Radio, they both made them off the Dreamcast. Like, at some point, I feel like you could play them other places besides the Dreamcast. But it sounds like Sega's trying to launch this thing called the Super Game Project. And I'm going to read this straight from Bloomberg. It says, the Super Game Project is led by Sega's video game unit chief, Shuji Utsumi, a former PlayStation executive, and currently includes plans for about 4 such titles, according to them. The company said last year that its European studio is working on a first-person shooter super game, and the plan was to offer contents and services that can create a large community. And so it looks like they're going to be maybe bringing up some other games like this from Sega's back catalog, which could be amazing. I think Sega has some sleeper hits that we probably wouldn't even realize. Oh yeah, that was Sega. Oh yeah, that was Sega.
Yeah.
And so obviously they've been out of the hardware game for a long time. But man, oh man, I used to enjoy the crap out of those games. So we will see what happens.
Speaking of classics, Dad brought over, he was like, hey, someone was getting rid of this. And I was like, oh, my son might want that. And it was this pink carrying case that had like 2 squares embroidered on it. And Sarah and I had no idea what it was. Unzip it, and it was a Nintendo DS.
Oh, really?
And,
Oh, wow.
Go get out.
Full of all these, the little cartridges, the little like SD cards.
Yeah.
And then Sarah's like, "Oh, there's a bunch of Game Boy cartridges in here too." I was like, "Oh, that's weird. They must have had a Game Boy at some point." And I didn't realize you can put Game Boy cartridges in the DS, and they work as well. So it was just, I've never had or seen in person a DS before. Popped in a game. It was just funny because you could see the transition of the kid from Tom and Jerry, and then the games turn into like SAT test helper and stuff like that. And it's so
SAT test helper.
It was funny. So I powered it up,
Test
and
helper.
That's funny.
without nostalgia, I got zero interest in this thing. I was like, I'll just
There
play
you go.
games on my phone. They look way better.
So it's the original DS, huh?
I think so. Yeah. I have no idea.
Wow.
That's funny.
That's incredible. Yeah, my kids had a 3DS and 2. Yes, I think I bought them 3DSs at one point, and then they broke it, and so I bought them 2DSs because they were cheap. Like I bought them on Craigslist
Okay.
or something. And they really loved them for a second there, but it's hard to go up against like those Kindles and
Right.
iPads and stuff like that these days.